Also a reminder that people online can also participate in this. All right, we can see that there is a big amount that's local in Helsinki or the Uusimaa region, and it's nice to also see that we have participants not only from the capital area, but also around Finland, and also some in the Baltics. Then we can also see range in Norway and Sweden, which is really, really great. Great to see that we're really all from all over the Nordic and the Baltic area. Let's just wait for a minute. There is around 52 people that are responding, or 53. Fantastic. Now we know that we have 54 engaged participants in the event. That's quite the number. So, all right. Well, now we can see that this really represents exactly the stakeholders that we wish to be engaged in the DigiUp Toolbox project. Fantastic. So, all right. So there's many of us here present today. So to open our event, we, and I personally also, I'm honored to welcome Aisha Manai, the CEO of Startup Refugees. It is an award-winning nonprofit organization that supports newcomers in employment, skills and development, and entrepreneurship. So please all join me and us in welcoming Aisha to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Hyvää huomenta. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the trust in me giving the opening speech. That will come straight from my heart. I did not practice this a lot. I want to start with a personal story. So my name is Aisha Manai. I was born to a Tunisian immigrant father and a Finnish mother here in Finland. And when I grew up, the image about immigrant women, specifically about Muslim immigrant women and about immigrant women of color or immigrant women coming from Eastern Europe was, I would say, highly toxic, to say the least. When I entered school, when I entered my first places of work, as from the outside, I don't necessarily look like I would be different from a native Finn. But whenever they would hear my name or my religion, I would get quite strange questions. For example, hey, what's your opinion on the human rights situation in Saudi Arabia? And I would say, I don't know, go ask Saudi Arabians. Hey, what's your opinion about Muslim women going through this and that? I'm like, I don't represent all Muslim women. I represent myself. When I was a teenager, I was actually not a teenager, I was in my 20s. There was a TV show called Scum. I'm not sure if anyone here has watched it. It was a Norwegian TV show. And it was the first time, I think I was maybe 27, 28. I actually finally saw positive representation of an Arab Muslim girl. And the little Aisha in me was like literally crying. It was a normal TV show, it was a drama series about young people living in Norway. But the girl, who was also Tunisian, as I obviously Googled her because I was a big fan, and her character in the show, she was really strong, she was really independent, she wore her hijab, she was proud of it, she had really high ambitions, she wanted to build a career, and she was something completely different from the story and narrative that I feel in Finland has been fed to us for way too long. Now, if I look at my own childhood, which is like more than 30 years ago, and I come to this day. A few weeks ago, I was around 400 kilometers away from Helsinki, giving a training. So in addition to working at Startup Refugees, I also coach companies and employers about how to manage culturally diverse places of work. So I won't say the name of the place, but it's 400 kilometers from Helsinki. And I went, there were 15 employers present, and we were talking about how Finland is becoming a more diverse nation, how we're going to see the new generations, the Alpha generation, the Z generation is going to be the most ethnically diverse generation that Finland has ever seen. How this has an impact on the products that we consume, the services that we buy, our culture, what Finnishness looks like in any case will change, and it is changing, and this is actually something positive if we know how to deal with it in a positive manner. But anyway, then we went to talk about what sort of things can happen at places of work. What sorts of cultural misunderstandings can take place? Because it's normal when you have people who come from different backgrounds, people who practice different beliefs, they speak different languages. Of course, there's going to be some sort of miscommunication. It comes with the name of the game, I would say. But anyway, after a few hours, there was a entrepreneur there who raised her hand, and then she asked me, like, can I ask you a question? And I said, yes, of course, like, this is a safe space. You can ask whatever you want. So then she asks me, why is it that immigrant women are not allowed to decide their work shifts? And then I said, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? She said, yeah, like, why do immigrant women not have the right to decide their shifts, work shifts? And I said, can you please elaborate? I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. So then she tells me that she had a student, oppisopimus like this, that you work and you get your degree at the same time. So she had a 2-year contract with this young lady who was working. It was in the nursing area. And when they were doing the shifts of when she should be available at the place of work, her spouse would come to the workplace and say, hey, by the way, the shifts have to be like this and like that. So then I asked, like, okay, that's quite interesting. I have never heard of this happening, and this is not like a common phenomenon everywhere. Did you happen to tell the spouse that he, of course, does not have the right to come to anyone's place of work and tell the employer how the work shifts should go? So then she's like, well, we just assumed that it's part of the culture. And then I said, okay, did you ever ask the girl who was working, who was doing her work apprenticeship with you, did you ever ask if she's safe or maybe there's something? Did you ever get worried about her? She said, no, we just assumed it's a part of her culture. And I am not exaggerating one bit. This literally happened 400 kilometers away from Helsinki. Of course, then I asked, so what's the situation now? She said, well, she finished her apprenticeship, she got her degree, and then she left. We didn't want to keep her there because we thought it's too strange that to always be having to work with her shifts and change the work shifts, etc. And I was trying to, keep my composure in the moment, and I think we had like a productive, fruitful conversation. And I do believe that in the end, she does realize that that's obviously not the full story of what an immigrant woman is. But it sort of took me back, like, have things really changed or not? Like, if this is the situation 400 kilometers away from Helsinki, that based on one experience, this employer has now made the judgment that this is the case with every single immigrant woman or immigrant Muslim woman to follow. So we definitely have a lot of work still to do in Finland, in the world, in Europe. And that's why I think it's extremely important that we have projects like the DigiUp that's combining different European countries and different organizations and really doing the work not for the immigrant women, but with the migrant women themselves, having their voices heard, having them take ownership in the projects. If you think about digital tools, and we always talk about like we need a seat at the table, I would say like having digital ownership and digital understanding is a proper way to get a seat at the table. Digital literacy and digital fluency is what actually provides you access. We have seen, if I think about Tunisia, like how our revolution took place, if there wouldn't have been the possibility to use digital schools, digital tools, we would have never gotten rid of the dictator that we had. So obviously that is a key element in supporting immigrant women and in supporting newcomers in general. But my time is almost up, so just quickly about Startup Refugees. So Startup Refugees was founded 10 years ago. As you can see, I do not have a script. I'm just like talking from my heart here. But Startup Refugees was founded 10 years ago. The whole idea of it, 10 years ago, 30,000 asylum seekers entered Finland, mainly from Iraq and Syria. And Finland went to a complete state of shock. And the only thing that we spoke about for the first months was how this is scary. Why are all of them men? Why do they have gel in their hair? Da da da. That was the rhetoric, like that refugees should not be able to wear jeans and have mobile phones. It was quite silly. And the idea of startup refugees was to flip that narrative. And instead of talking about these nonsensical issues, and instead of instigating fear and putting people against each other, we should actually talk about the potential of the people who are coming into new countries and wanting to build lives in those new countries. And slowly we started working as a network, inviting in companies. Now we have grown into an organization of 23 employees. Only 6 of us are born in Finland. The rest have an immigrant background themselves. And we are increasingly working with immigrant women, but we work with all genders. We serve all genders, but especially those who have an asylum seeker or refugee background. And what we want to prove to Finland, to Europe, and the world is that when we talk about international talents, refugees are part of that discussion. International talents are not just architects or IT professionals coming from Western countries. They are everyone and can be everyone. But thank you for the invitation once again, and looking forward to hear more about the DigiUp project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much for a very strong and heartfelt and very authentic speech, Aisha. And I think it's one of the key things that I heard in the discussion that at least resonated and inspired with me. It's about having the opportunity to take over ownership, but also ownership of the narrative. And I think that's a very powerful thought, and I think we can also probably see that in our day-to-day work. Yes, thank you very much, Aisha. Let's give another round of applause to Aisha. Thank you.
Great. Our next speakers bring a research perspective that helps us to understand how digital systems shape access to service, work, and participation. So I would now like to invite to the stage Trust M project researchers Ruta and Utishta. This talk will explore how migrant mothers in Espoo navigate everyday life, challenge stereotypes of helplessness, and build agency through relationships. So we're looking forward to hearing how research can make these structural barriers more visible. Welcome.
Thank you.
Just 1 second.
Thank you so much. It hasn't. Does it come there?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. And glad to see so many people here in the audience and the people online. And thank you, Aisha, for that beautiful opening statement. I think we have a lot of maybe common things that we're going to present today, and I think you set the ground really well. Thank you. But my name is Utish. I'm a doctoral researcher at Aalto, representing the Trust M project with my colleagues Ruta and Nils. Ruta will be presenting with me today, and Nils will be answering the hard questions during the panel discussion. Do you want to introduce? Okay, I've introduced you well enough. Good. But yes, today we are going to be talking about, from our research over the last few years, about these notions of self-sufficiency and relational or communal agency in the city of Espoo. And this is a quote from one of our interviews where someone was saying that, I am going to be a nurse. It's with a lot of conviction and heart. For the people who don't know, especially the international sort of audience, the city of Espoo is in the capital region. It's just east of here, and with Vantaa and Helsinki forms the capital region of Finland. Very broadly, what we're going to be talking about today are, from the institutional point of view, from the city of Espoo, what are the constraints to developing real participation? And from our research with migrant mothers in Espoo, we're talking about the notions of self-sufficiency and relational agency. And we'll talk about a little about digital skills as well within this. To give a brief overview of our fieldwork over the last 3 years or so, we've worked a lot with different NGOs, some of which are in the room, so Moniheli, Nice Hearts, and others. But what we're mostly talking about is these two sort of things that are highlighted in orange, which are workshops with the city of Espoo and NGOs to get in the same room to map existing participatory infrastructures in the city, as well as interviews that we had conducted with migrant mothers in both English and Somali languages as well. Now, I think it's good to also build a baseline of what we mean by participation, or at least what the city of Espoo defines as participation, because that really forms the basis for the rest of our work. But according to the city of Espoo, participation is three things: the ability as a resident to be heard, to have the space to be heard, having some influence on how the city decides on its matters, and thirdly, feeling a sense of belonging with the city. And I think it's a pretty good definition. Of course, I think we can expand it a lot more, but it's a good starting point for discussing more about participation. Our work mostly focuses, and this is the one, if you have to take away something, this is what our work focuses on: infrastructuring the long-term participation of migrants in Espoo. And what that means, again, I'll go through it very briefly, but infrastructuring is looking at all the work that's done behind the scenes, that NGOs do, that people do, and what are these social, technical, digital structures that exist that make participation possible, and bringing them to the forefront and not leaving them behind. Long term, because we believe that a lot of participation unfortunately happens as a one-off activity, a one-off workshop, and we're looking at how do we make it a participatory infrastructure where it can continue over the long term. And participation, when we talk about that, we want to move from this idea that it's a consultation and a one-way thing to more of a dialogue and a partnership between the residents and the city. And in that sense, we want to build skills, capacity, trust, and agency within both the residents, migrants, but also between the city and its residents as well. And migrants and Espoo are both in blue, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'll pass it on to Ruta to talk a little bit about Espoo.
Thank you, just for the intro. Once again, my name is Ruta Sherpitita. If you have some specific questions in Mentimeter for me, you can write them there. And I will start with the first part, which is more from the top-down perspective. So we will talk about Espoo as an institution and an infrastructure. So as you know, Espoo is a public institution, but we also see it as a connector between different organizations around it and residents and different departments within Espoo that form this infrastructure. And how can people be a part of that infrastructure was our question. And more specifically, our question was, how can people not be a part of this? What constrains them from participating? So this is the question that we went in our workshops. So we were wondering, what are the current constraints of the infrastructuring participation? And we're throwing a lot of big words, but if you are confused or like you don't understand fully what that word means, you can always ask, and then Nils will answer them later in the panel. Or we can also answer on Mentimeter, I guess. And we will have 4 constraints that I will present now. So first was ideological mismatch. So we will start from the very broad level and go more to the practice level as well. So ideological mismatch, what we've noticed from these workshops, that there is a mismatch between what the municipality aims and what the national government aims, or what rhetoric do they bring forth. So the quote illustrates it very well. So one Espoo employee was saying that the atmosphere, if it's racist, it sets the basis for the whole participation. So it doesn't really matter what fancy services we make here, but if people don't feel valued, they will not participate. So something very difficult to change, but something that exists and constrains from participating. The next one was the sandbox effect. And what do we mean by that is that there is a very ingrained experimental culture in the public institutions. It makes sense because things have to be tested before they go public. And we notice that a lot, but what it creates is something that we called, or someone from Espoo called, project graveyards. So the projects start and then they fade out, or the funding ends, and then you have to recreate the same project with a different name, with a different funding instrument. So all these good initiatives, they just disappear. So this lack of infrastructure is very visible here. And as you can see in the quote, we found thousands of users from that one language group that were expecting the service to continue. And then the city says, no, we don't need this anymore because of funding. The third one is more in the cultural practices, is what we saw, what is called in the literature engagement theater. And what does it mean is that you show that you do participation, but it's actually just a show. It's something that is spotlighted, something that is a tick mark somewhere. And I see a lot of nodding heads here. So you understand these struggles very well. And we saw that this creates this temporary access for people to be a part of this, and you feel like, oh yes, I feel like I can participate, but then the project ends, and then this just becomes a ticked box in the project results. And some NGO managers were commenting on this, that, okay, it's not like we have a closet of migrant participants to give you every time when there is some initiative and you need that one migrant participant resident. So yeah, this was an interesting finding for us. And lastly, what maybe our main new finding was in our work, that we saw a lot of cross-organizational frictions, and this was possible because we had NGOs and the city at the same table. That there is a lack of infrastructure to own the services together, or there are a lot of overlaps between the services. And I think this quote is also really good, that NGOs end up organizing events and programs and activities that actually should be done by the authority. And then there's this assumption by the authorities that, you know, oh, go to NGO, they will fix it for you. They will do it for you. So while we support the NGO work, we also see that there is this problem that it creates, that then the city does not do their job, or, I mean, all of this is also because of funding and the cuts as well. So if you want to take a picture, there's all of them together here, and I will take a sip of water. Yeah, so once again, going from the very broad to more practical one with the engagement theater, and then the in between the organizations, what happens. Okay, sorry, I will go to the next slide. Yeah, but what can be done about it? And we had a lot of different strategies that we were trying to come up with, and one that we will tell about today, or I will mention now, is intermediaries. So what are intermediaries? Most of you probably. So people, organizations, or semi-formal actors broadly that navigate between the government and the people. So they understand the demands of the national policies or local policies, but at the same time they have very real contact with the people as well. So we really support that, supporting intermediaries here. And Utters will continue with part 2.
Thanks, Ruta. Yeah, so in the second part of this, we're going to be talking about from the migrant perspective. I think Ruta explained quite well from the institutional perspective, but we really look at migrants as skilled, agentic actors, and not just as migrants who need help. But from our interview studies and other work, there are 3 aspects that I want to be talking about today. So the first is the notion of self-sufficiency, then relationality, or we put communal, but the notion of being connected and part of having many relations, and the last being digital access, and I'll go through them one by one. I'm also going to be using a metaphor of a map today to explain this. This is more for me than it is for you, because I like to have a metaphor to sort of go through things, and I love maps, so this is for me. But in this map, it's basically, in this case, a migrant mother, someone we interviewed, who has a goal to reach. So the X mark on the map, and their aim is that I'm going to be a nurse, and the path is the things that they have to do on their way to get to be a nurse. So, talking about the first aspect of self-sufficiency, I think Aisha already mentioned it quite well, but I think there is work and research as well, and this paper by Eera and Markkinen at the bottom, where there's a lot of worrying about migrant mothers that happens in Finnish news journalism, and this was in 22, but I think we still see it in 26, that migrant mothers are always seen as the problem, and we need to worry about them. This is in media and political discourse, societal discourse, and this narrative of migrant mothers is always problematized, that they are the problem, and what this does is it creates a deficit-centered approach or a deficit-centered view of what a migrant mother is. We look at them as beings devoid of imagination and agency, when in fact our research shows that migrant mothers are full of agency, capacity, self-sufficiency, and a lot of capabilities as well. And we want to focus that we need to move from this designing for a deficit-centered approach to designing for dignity, and be designed for that. And it's important to keep this in mind when designing services and programs for them, that these are already people with a lot of capabilities that they're just trying to augment and not really give them particular capacities. And we see this even in this quote, that we had with a migrant mother in the response that she wants to be self-sufficient. There is a lot of pride. These are not people who are looking to get handouts or anything but that, but they have their own capacity, imagination, and aspirations as well. And it's important to keep that in mind as we design services and programs for them. In the context of the map, once again, there might be a predefined path that was designed for them, that, oh, this is the way you get to be a nurse. But again, these migrant mothers are really capable. They find their own way, their own path. It might be a bit longer, it might be difficult, they have stops, but they have their own notes and abilities to reach where they want to go. And we just need to support and augment that. The next point is about relationality. The systems, services, public programs, all of them are designed for individual access. However, they're used in relational capacities. And when I say relational, I mean they're with their family members, their kids, people in the mosque, NGOs as well. People don't access services individually. Rather, they access them, multiple people access the same service together and in groups. And it was very clear in our interviews that this idea of individual access is always seen as the right one, even by the people who design it, but even by the interviewees themselves. So in this small example, which if you look at the larger context of it, maybe it makes more sense, but the interviewee always mentioned that I did things myself, I did stuff myself, which is, of course, leads into self-sufficiency. But when you talked about it later, it was that there was a little bit of help. Your husband helped with it, or a kid helped with it, or something. But they would always try and hide it, because it was always seen as the wrong thing to do. And I think that's the fault of the way the systems are designed. They're designed to be individualistic, but that's not how people work. People have different skills, people have different capacities, and when they all come together, then they manage to achieve something, and we need to design for that. So again, in the context of the map, when you have to get to a place, someone has the digital skills, someone has the bureaucratic literacy, someone has the administrative literacy, and it all comes together. And when you have all these different pieces and tools like the compass, then you can find your path together. When it comes to, we have a few suggestions as well for why we, for how to encourage relationality, but it's by recognizing these informal helpers, what we call warm experts. So maybe not the most digitally literate people, but people who are close to you, and that's the warmth that we're talking about, and support them too. So in the design of services, the way information is disseminated, we need to think about these warm experts. Ruth already talked about designing with and for intermediaries. But even in the metrics of success that are there by the city or by any sort of digital service, we need to stop measuring the success by individual self-sufficiency, and rather through have we successfully facilitated a community or a relational agency. The last point is about digital access. And digital access and skills, I think the scene is very binary sometimes, but I think maybe it's not true of the people in this room, but I definitely see it in like broader sort of societal discourse that once we have digital access, everything is solved, everything is okay. But even digital access is not as simple as that I know how to log in, that means I can do everything else digitally. It's very different being on WhatsApp versus using Wilma. And for example, Wilma, the educational platform in the capital region, you can see this respondents that, yes, they can access it. They do know how to use a computer, they know how to use their phone, and they can access it. But there's a difference between accessing the information and actually contributing to it as well. So, of course, this is about Finnish a little bit, but in the larger context, it was actually just about how do you type a message, a very formal message to a teacher or something like that. So when you're looking at the map again, it's like this patchy information. You know where you are, you know where you want to go, but there's missing information in the middle that prevents you from fully completing your task. And there's you've not got a fully formed map yet as well. Now, very quickly, because I don't think I have that much time, but I want to talk about this, the importance of moving from access to world building as well. Because I think while access is very important, we need to look at world building more when we design for equity and inclusion as well. So, designing for access can be looked as designing for accessibility, and that doesn't just mean that for the visually impaired or the mobilely impaired, but also adding languages to websites, giving different mediums of access in person or digital or so on. But world building is about democratizing power. So when we have activities that, for example, the city of Helsinki does participatory budgeting, We're trying to democratize the power to the residents or to the citizens to make larger decisions on how services are co-designed and where money should go. And while I think it's not mutually exclusive, we don't have just access or world building. There are different permutations and combinations of the two. I think it's important that a lot of work focuses on access because it's much easier to do. And we need to also think about, does our work look at world building as well? Because past literature shows that while access is good in the short run, in the long run, it actually furthers inequities as well. Because what you do is you other the participants. You're like, these are other people that need help, and it comes back to that deficit-centered approach I spoke about. So when we are building, in the short run, it's okay to look at access, but in the long run, we need to look at programs that democratize political and societal power. Coming back to the map, it's basically this, that who has the power to draw the map? And this is the difference between annotation, navigation, or cartography, or making the map. It's about democratizing the power, agency, and structures that facilitate actually drawing of this new map, and that reflects the way the community experiences with different landmarks, different routes, and a different logic as well. Who draws the map has always been a political question. I think we see it very strongly today as well in the world, and I think it's important that we consider these power structures that enable us to draw the map in the co-design of services in the future. Again, this is my final slide, but when we're looking at the infrastructuring of the long-term participation of migrants in ESPO, there are three things that we suggest that we do. Supporting intermediaries, designing for relations and relational capacity, and building the digital skills, not just for access, but also for world building. Thank you so much to Moni Heli and the DigiUp project for having us, and I hope we all learned something today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, wow. That was, for someone who works in the digital inclusion field with migrants, it like raises feelings and emotions and like, yes, that's very true. I don't know where to start. I have to say that I think the constraints that you defined, I think what's fantastic about it is how you put them into words and how clear they are. Because we talk about these things day to day. We just never actually maybe have the ways to like maybe phrase them like this well. And I think it's great that, thank you so much for this presentation. And I got inspired. And I also especially loved how about like building the future, but it's also not about, you know, calling people vulnerable, etc. But it's also how you see people. It's also how they show up. And I think that was very, very powerful in that. So I'm very, very grateful. And I think that's something we all can take away also in our professional and maybe even personal lives. How we see people can also affect how they appear. What are your thoughts, Sylvie?
Yeah, I agree. It was very clear and tangible how they explained it, and I really liked having this idea of designing services for dignity, and you know that people want to have be self-sufficient and do things themselves, and great presentation. So we've heard about lived realities and structural conditions. The question is now, how do we respond in practice?
Yeah. So, yeah, we've heard a lot of like theory as well and research and thoughts. So next, let's hear the groundwork, the how do we deal in practicalities with these issues. So please, Yuri, who's been taking a lead on this project for the past year, involving different countries, stakeholders, and doing amazing job at this project. Please, the floor is yours, Yuri. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, hi everyone. My name is Yuri. I've been, as Alton mentioned, leading this DigiUp Toolbox project for the past 12 months. I have to say, like, Aisha's speech made me a bit emotional also, because this, working in this field as someone also moved to Finland, I recognize that myself as a migrant woman, it's very important that we talk about, like, working with them, not for them. So this Toolbox project has been very meaningful for me personally and professionally. And here I'm sharing our journey and also like results of the toolbox, but just wait for that. I'm not going into there just yet. So first of all, why we needed this project? Maybe someone mentioned about like this employment, and there has been lots of talks about employment gaps in EU countries, also in the Nordics, especially for those women who move to like new countries. The employment rate for them is lower than those with native population. And of course, there are different reasons to it. It's not just about digital skills that we are talking about, like language, the structural barriers that like Shut and Ruta mentioned. But we're thinking, we live in Nordic Baltic countries, things are a lot digitalized, and without digital skills, it's really hard to even maybe buy a ticket to transportation, finding a job, and so on. So we wanted to focus on this digital skills as one of the challenge. Then our strengths as a Moniheri, we are a network of 150-60 multicultural organizations, and we've been working on the topic of digital inclusion for the past 4 years. So then our strengths really comes from capacity building of these community members, trainers. And on top of it, we found the cooperation partners from, like you can see the list, and we have people coming from other countries. Then we got this idea of the DigiUp Toolbox project, which is making a website that's meant for educators, trainers, community members, and to support migrant women in learning digital skills, and then strengthen digital skills to help or support them to be more independent. Then we got the funding from the Nordic Council of Ministers. As I mentioned, we have partners from Finland to Denmark, Norway, and Estonia. You'll be hearing more about what we've been doing through my presentation and in the panel discussions. And also the people on site will have the chance to talk to people from different organizations as well. Then when we started the project, I think Luther mentioned there are lots of projects like recreating from the beginning, but that's not what we wanted to do. So we, based on our expertise from the Moniheri network, you can see it in the picture, and then we had this kind of a, how can I say that, life skills for all model created by the Study Center Civis and Lifelong Learning Foundation. It's on the left bottom. And they also use the model from this digital competence, which is like EU framework that recognize the basic digital skills connected to the working life. So there have been lots of framework already built, especially in the context of Finland. And then also the Helsinki Adult Education Center, they had lots of resources for teachers. Also then, based on this, I did interviews with different partners because we needed to make sure the alignment between different countries across Nordic and Baltic regions. And also did some research on open resources. Then based on this kind of a groundwork and understanding existing framework, we moved on to co-creation. To the top right picture, we had a co-workshop together, and then we did lots of asking for feedback when we had the initial model of the toolbox. And then based on the initial model, we had a pilot training organized by our 6 partners. So how does the toolbox really contribute into this promoting digital inclusion? Is we wanted to, hold on, yes, we wanted to focus on promoting active participation, meaning it's not just one-way teaching. There is a space for trainers and learners to engage with each other and also discuss together rather than just being taught in the classroom settings. Then we also wanted to make a training materials flexible so the trainers can have a bit of flexibility in making sure the context meet the needs of the learners. So then this really promotes like learners having motivation rather than just someone come and tell you what needs to be done kind of a thing. Then maybe most importantly, we wanted to emphasize these safe learning spaces because, you know, we all make mistakes, but if you don't have the safe space, you might feel like you may not know how to do something, but you might say like, oh, I know, it's all fine. But if there is a safe space and then there's some other maybe women with similar backgrounds, you might feel safer to be like, oh, yeah, like, I don't know, and I made mistakes, but I could get help from someone. So this was very important, like, principle of our toolbox. Then, well, as I mentioned, we had a pilot training by partners. We did like during the autumn last year. And as a total, we reached 105 women who were like looking for jobs or then felt like needed to strengthen their digital skills to help in job search or everyday life. And we had total of 33 sessions, which amounted like 6 hours. And here I'm very happy to present these numbers too. Like out of learners, like 98% felt like their digital skills have been strengthened through the training. And then also 91% said their confidence in employment and work life has strengthened as well. And also, like, I wanted to mention, like, they were very, like, learners are very happy to have this kind of a training. And then we had, of course, limited sessions, like 3 sessions all together. And they're like, oh, we wanted more of these. And so it's good to realize that there are lots of motivation in learning, lots of discussion between the learners. So there was like a peer support element. And then one of their partner did a training in Turkish, which was a mother tongue of learners, which was very appreciated. And also some of the training, the learners had the chance to participate then with children, or then there was a child care possibility. So that made it like lower the threshold to join those training as well. I have a few slides of like feedback from the learners. I want to go through everything, but as I have limited time, I'm just wanted to show some of it. That some people really learned like keyboard and email skills. To maybe on the left, there was someone mentioning about good to share like a training with someone, with other women who have same backgrounds, similar backgrounds, and exchanging information. Well, I'll be sending these slides so you can look at them later. Okay, let me hydrate myself. Okay, are you as excited as I am with seeing the toolbox? Well, I have to actually move to to toolbox.com. Yes. Thank you. Yes, here we are. Thank you. So this is the Toolbox website. You will have access and you will have the time to look at them in peace after my part. So just please look at the presentation for now. So it's available in English, but here you can change them to other languages as well. And it has like 2 big elements. So first one is guide to trainers, which try to cover like contents from beginning to like end of feedback, like how to organize it. And we try to accommodate for trainers who are very new to teaching, to trainers who are very has expertise in teaching or IT backgrounds. And here too, like we try to bring all the, how can I say, the work done in pilot training into this guide, so you can get all the knowledge from all of us into here. Then we have these training materials that are more like something you could use in the training. And here, as you know, digital skills is such a big variety, but we try to put them into 6 categories based on the previous structure. And actually in the pilot training, we actually had some people new to computers. So this, for example, was quite a popular, how can I say, the training material. And each training package or these categories have 10, 15 different items, and each item has the same structure. And the idea is to have kind of the main theme, main topic, and the learning objective, and then have to coordinate it for the trainers. So there is an element of how the trainers can create safe space, active participation, discussion between the learners. And that was like a very important part when making this part. Then we have also the video materials in different languages. And we also try to make a bit more interactive elements, for example, on the word wall, like you can use, for example, in the teaching to do like kind of, so to make it a bit more fun rather than like a basic PowerPoint presentation, for example. So this is very short intro of the toolbox. And then let me go back to here. So looking back where we started, we wanted to also contribute to this Nordic Council Ministers' vision for 2030, which is quite ambitious, but we have this working towards the most sustainable and integrated regions in the world. And then thinking about Toolbox, we have contributed to this vision by like strengthening the educators, trainers, community members' expertise. Also, we promoted the knowledge sharing between different countries, regions, and in particular by strengthening the digital skills of migrant women, we try to improve the opportunities to find their path in the new country. So we do believe that the toolbox will also continue to like contribute to making Nordic region more sustainable and integrated as well. And well, our work has only just begun. We just have the toolbox now, but our work still continues. So of course we want to continue our work at Moniheli. We want to do more cooperation between different sectors as well. And in case you see some materials that are fitting into the toolbox, then of course you can share them with me. I will put them to the toolbox and more people can benefit from that. So yeah, let's work together and towards more to promote this digital inclusion and integration. And I'm looking forward to talk more about this in the panel discussion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Yuri, for this introduction to the toolbox. So before we move to the panel discussion, we'd like to invite everyone to take a few minutes to check out the Toolbox website. Yuri gave us a short overview, but you can look at the website yourself through the QR code or typing in the URL there. Also, those of you online are welcome to access the website and check it out.
Let's take a couple minutes for exploration. All right. Let's raise our hands if you managed to log into the toolbox. Yes, we can see that most have already started exploring. That's fantastic. Great. So now we will move to our panel discussion, where the experiences, the research, the training and practice, and the institutional perspectives will all meet on the floor and discuss. So next, I give our moderator of the panel discussion, Yuri, the floor. So please do proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, let's. Well, the panelists, please come here. Then you can take the seats. But, okay, I think you can share the mic with two. Yes. And then otherwise we have one each. Okay. So, are you ready for this panel discussion? I don't know, maybe I'll try to move a little bit this way. Okay. Do you need water? I'm just thinking. You'll be fine. Okay. Right. Before we start, maybe I'd like each of you to say your name and the organization you represent and how you were involved in this Toolbox project, or perhaps what made you interested in coming along with this today's event topic.
Hi everyone, thank you for inviting us to here. Today I'm presenting Nice Hearts RU as a neighborhood mother, and why as I wanted to participate this kind of project that it's about my background. I myself is in Finland. I'm as a migrant woman and as a lawyer from Turkey and studying law in Finland and legal designer. And this all of when come together, it's why I'm attending because it's about directly to the digital rights, human rights, and accessing to the services and accessing to the rights. That's why I want to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nils Ehrenberg. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Vasa. I work with Utishta and Ruta, and I've worked with them for a few months now. And I think the whole Moni Heli relates very well to how we've been trying to write our research in such a way that we don't just look at the limitations, but also opportunities, how to show that most of the migrant women have ambitions and agency. And even though there's often quite a lot of challenges, understanding those challenges in the research is better when we're looking at it from their perspective. So yeah, that's how
My name is Petra Pulle. I represent City of Vantaa, more particularly integration and employment services and Vantaa Skills Center services. I work as a senior employment specialist, and Vantaa is the most international city in Finland, and we have 30% of the population representing 140 probably or more than 150 nationalities and language groups. And as well, we are by demographics, we are the youngest city on average in Finland. So we want to be for the people and for the diversity, and a lot of questions and ideas, and woke up when in the previous keynotes and presentation came that diversity is a very diverse and wide context that it should be always remembered that yes, we represent humans, but we present individuals with individual skills. And in my job, I do a lot of service design, and I we try our best always to take into consideration multi-stakeholder opinion and take different opinions into account when planning services. And that is one of the reasons also why we found it very important to take part of this project. And we are thankful for that, and that we've been able to, because of course as an authority we need to empower people with equate skills and access to the services that we as an authorities design. But yeah, we come back to that later.
My name is Tanja Aas, and I represent the Norwegian Directorate of Higher Education and Skills. But more importantly, I also represent digidel.no, which is the Norwegian version of DigiUp. And we just celebrated our 10th year anniversary last year. So we've been in the game for quite some time. But we decided to take part of it because A, it's important to support each other, and B, we can always learn from each other, meaning not only can DigiUp learn from digital, but we can also learn the other way around. And I've already seen a couple of resources that, those might look pretty good in Norwegian too, because we need it. Norway came out with a new national digital strategy last year of being the most digital country by 2030. When it comes to being a digital country, we're already there. The problem is, as in Finland and the rest of the Nordic Baltic region, to get the people digital. Everything is accessible, but do we know how to access it? And as of right now, not everyone. And that's why this is important.
We'll get to that very soon, yes. And please.
Yeah, my name is Monira, and I'm from Tallinn Migration Center. And actually, my background is I was a CEO and manager of Robotics Institute. But when I came to Estonia, actually, totally was different. And I every day saw many women that they have a same actually challenge that how could be set in the new society. So when I have this opportunity to join this project, it was so nice to, actually I understood I can reduce their pain. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm happy to hear, and thank you for all of you, because why I came here today also because it's a good opportunity to share our experience.
Yes, thank you, everyone. It's very nice to have a panelist from different backgrounds, personally, professionally, and also from different country as well. And in this panel, we would like to kind of explore, like to identify some of the challenges in the real life, what's happening, and then recognize what are some of the like structural barriers, perhaps in connection with the Trust M project research as well. Then we will try to find what kind of changes should happen. How can we make the changes together across regional and sectoral? That's how we shall try our best to reach in the limited time we have. But first of all, maybe we didn't mention so much of like what's really happening in the reality in details. And then we have Neurogis and Monile who were as a trainers in this toolbox piloting. So you actually were the trainer organizing trainings. And maybe also as a person moved to a new country, you might have some experience of coming to a more digitalized society and seeing maybe some opportunities, but also challenges. Maybe would you like to share your experiences from maybe personal to from the training as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I can first share my experience when I came Finland. When I came from Istanbul. It was a really big city, and I was working as a lawyer in there. I was inside of the digital because in the justice system is digitalized in Turkey. I came here, but during about 4 or 5 years, I didn't do anything. I was almost nothing. I was at home studying language. But after this kind of break, I start to learning English and start to study again. It was completely go inside the digitalization again. It was, for me, it wasn't new, but after the break, it was new, almost new for me. But when we talk about the other, if they don't have any experience before coming, it was the other word when they come. And during the training, toolbox training also, people have educated before came here, but it was still difficult to come inside the Finnish digital system, because it wasn't only technology, knowing using computer or a phone or something. It was the culture is different, recruitment culture. When first in our first session, when we talk about the trainee or participant, what they want to learn, what they expected from this trainee, the first thing was learning CV and motivation letter and applying job in Finland job market. We show that CV and motivation letter, but how they can apply, how they need to write an email, for example, when they apply to job. And after the session finished, we decided that, like, they find some job, or like they can send me a job application for me, for in my email, how they can write an email to the Finnish recruiter. And this is so important that I mentioned that this isn't only knowing the technology, this is all the culture also.
Yeah, so like the participants and people you supported, they had some base skills, but then they need some kind of extra that's fit into their new environment to have a kind of a push to fit to this.
Yes, of course. For example, in Turkey, you use or write different CV, and in Finland is different because all the culture is different. You need to experience, or you need to get more help to do learning this kind of things.
Yeah, so country context knowledge is very important. How about Monile? Do you have similar experience or something you would like to share with us?
Yes, exactly. And it was amazing for me that actually, the ladies had some kind of basic knowledge, but actually they need some kind of confident, not actually pushing. And the first of the course, I asked, they can find everything on internet, why they need to come and join this class. But after that, I understood that actually in the group, they need safety, some kind of that I'm not alone. I'm not the alone person in the world that don't know about how to apply a job on the internet, or I need the support. And when they give each other the support, after that I saw that they are satisfied and happy.
Yeah, it's really connecting to maybe what's been talked about, like a little bit of support that connects them to find their ways as well. Maybe Niels have things to add to this from your points of view as well.
Sure. I think, well, before I came into the Trustem project, I worked in projects also with seniors and digital skills. And there's a lot of similarities in terms of also a key difference. They know the system, like in the bureaucratic system. So they struggle, and it's very clear to see the distinction a little bit there in how they struggle with the digital aspects. And very similarly to here, they have a lot of support groups with peer learnings, where it's so distinctly clear how much easier it is to learn when you have someone who understands why you have a difficult time. So to compare to seniors, someone who understands why you have a problem swiping on the phone, because the phone is designed for someone who has a little bit more capacity to your fingers, because old fingers dry out. So just those very simple things, or the language. So the bureaucracy, the language, the digital skills are in combination a skill set that is very hard. On top of the fact that, and I will stop after this, the relational aspects that Utish was talking about earlier, that we often learn through our communities or act through our communities. And yeah, sorry. Yeah. And these kind of, there's an expectation very often in Finland, and I think in all the Nordics, that you act yourself, you log in yourself, you act yourself. You're not supposed to need to ask for help. And I think some of these tools kind of highlight, and some of the things that have been in the other people's saying have been showing this very, very clearly. So, yeah.
I think Tanya had a point.
Yeah, I just want to add a comment, and that is, in Norway, we start seeing the youth. The youth have digital skills, but they don't have the bureaucracy skills. They don't get the system, kind of like the migrants. So yeah, they can swipe and they can do whatever, and they can do the short videos on TikTok and everything, but when it comes to the skills needed for workplace or the society, they're lacking. So we kind of see the need for looking other ways. And the second part of it is that the more digital a society becomes, the more emphasis it is on reading and writing. So it's kind of a, 2 for 2.
Yeah, there has been lots of points mentioned here, but maybe Petra, do you have something to add, something you recognize in your work, or any other points you want to add to this kind of a participation into digitalized society?
I can agree totally on the employment perspectives in many levels, that sometimes getting into the job, the digital process is more harder than the digital skills actually needed in some jobs. So this is something that we try to, when we are in contact with companies, especially when we are talking about that type of jobs that are not IT expert jobs, that please take into consideration in the application processes these things, that's so you will get the best talent suitable for the job, not best talent who can navigate the job search process. And it's also about, I think, as a society and as a whole, we should more think about also that the message the person wants to deliver in general, that we set forms of Finnish-style applications, and those don't work abroad. I have a personal experience on that. I was going for an interview, multinational company, headquarters in UK, and the HR manager from Hungary. I sent my Finnish-style CV. Yeah, we believe you have talent, but you just wrote titles, because we are taught, especially before, just to write titles, don't explain anything. And then the person from the Hungarian background sent me, okay, please fill in the CV based on the more international or UK style. So also the point that shouldn't we accommodate different style of CVs? Should we accommodate different style of job search letter or motivational letters? That not that the Finnish, okay, in Finnish context here or the Nordic context, that we only accept the certain type, that the accommodation should be coming from both from the structural side and both from the individual side.
Yeah, there was just lots of thoughts, like different experience from the trainers, and also not just the migrants, like youth, elderly, have different aspects in terms of like challenges to using digital skills, and there is some common challenges to the different ways. And maybe thinking back, I think Niels mentioned more like we are expected to know what to do in this more like Nordic context. I feel like the responsibility on each individual might feel quite big, but as in the Utschut and Ruta's presentation, I think there was this intermediaries who connect the government and the people, which is very important, as mentioned maybe in Elgisamor and everyone. Maybe we can think about this perspective, that how can we make sure not just responsibility going to the individual, but as society, as actors from different sectors work together to make sure there is a possibility to participate in the digitalized society. Maybe we can start from the other side. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Actually, I can say that I believe that the individual is the most important part of that. Because if I, for example, if I, and now I'm a member of the Tallinn Migration Center, but I'm Monire, and I can help people. And it's a start from me again.
Can you clarify the last part? Sorry.
I mean that actually, yes, your question was that from where and how actually we can improve it or
Yes.
that. And I say that I believe that, again, it's a start from the individual. Because, yes, I'm part of a team, but again, I'm a person that I can do my best. So I believe that.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you mean
Yes.
you as an individual could support others in
Yes.
navigating the
Yes.
system
Yes.
and so on. So.
Because if I think that it's my responsibility and my colleague and other, after that we can gather it and do something amazing.
Yeah. So yes, sorry, I don't know why I didn't finish you. So as together, we could make sure that in responsibility, not just one individual. Yeah. Anyone wants to go next?
I've seen, at least in Norway, I've seen a change over the last few years. If you asked officials 15 years ago, they were 100% sure that digital skills was going to be no problem once the elderly died.
Oh.
We learned a few years later that, yeah, it is an issue. And I know from Norway that there was one large company that decided to go from paper to an iPad overnight. And they just handed everyone an iPad because they assumed everyone knew how to work it. Well, of course, about half didn't, so yeah, thing clashed and burned. But I've seen a change because now they're not expecting everyone to know. They know that it's going to be, most are going to be able to do it, and then there's going to be some that are not. So I've seen a change in that. But at the same time, it's important for the individual to not only learn, but also want to learn and want to be better and do it. So there's a mixture there, both like making it easy to access, because you know most people today use, especially migrants, they have a phone, and they usually know how to work it. But a lot of society, and like you mentioned, sometimes they need to work a computer just to get a job, but they don't have to use a computer.
True.
And then because a lot of the trades today, like if you were a carpenter, plumber, they use a phone, maybe an iPad, but they never use the computer.
Yeah.
Hardly.
I think also in some of the discussions with Nelgis Monire about the piloting, also we are thinking like how can we do the teaching in computers, but also connect with the phone. So not everyone has the access to computers at home, or they maybe share one device with family members. So like, how can we make sure this learning continues at home and it's connected in their personal life, like CB learning? How is it like, how strong connection does it have with the personal? And Tanier's part about, yeah, motivation is very important. If people want to learn, we saw many motivated people as well. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in, but please, if you have some thoughts, go ahead.
Yeah, I can sort of, I will borrow Utish's metaphor of the mapping, because I think it's really useful and it's really nice. The thing with the map is that if you know the way, it's very easy. If you know how to navigate, it's very easy to use it. But the tricky part is that those maps are like, there's an end goal and a starting point. And what happens in between is quite uncharted. And in fact, everyone's journey is individual. So what we need to do is not always just teach someone how to use the computer, but how to navigate using the computer. And that's a slightly different skill. It is teaching them the confidence to use a computer and a device of any kind with the confidence that you're not going to make a mess of it. It is teaching someone to read and use an AI chatbot without trusting it, but understanding when you can and cannot trust it. It is a lot of these skills, and that's not as easy as just teaching them how to do it. And that's why we like to talk about intermediaries, because, and many of you are the intermediaries actually, like that's what we mean, that you operate as intermediary organizations. And when you do that, you both represent the citizens, sometimes you represent them to the public. They might ask your organization for advice on how to design, but you might also represent the public to the citizens. And you can do that because you're not actually the public agencies. You can tell when the public is doing something wrong or bad, and you can be supportive for them. And that independent position is something that we think is actually really central and something that is quite precious. So that's why we like to talk about these intermediaries, because they help people learn to navigate. But that's, yeah, I'll let someone else continue.
This is exactly also what do we see in the public services. We can, the laws and legislations are pushing people towards more digital services, digital dependency and independency in a way. And then we bring figures which are like, yes, everybody has, let's say, internet connection all the time. You are accessible to it. You and as said, have access for self-governance through digital systems. But do people know the rights and the responsibilities that are coming within the access? And that resonated a lot with Utisha and Ruta was explaining earlier, because it's totally different that, yes, I voluntarily give my data to somebody or something, than you just press OK because you need to get into service, or you need to get your unemployment benefit, or you need to get another thing. So this is a very big question about, especially when we come to Nordic or let's say now in Nordic Baltic context, that we are talking about trust on society, trust in on authorities, and how data is processed. So these are bigger questions. It's yes individual, but it's used in context. And what I I thought of often is that we have, yes, access to digital services. People are said, yeah, you know now how to log into your own whatever is account. But we need so much in services or in public sector or intermediaries or NGOs that we have guidance for elderly, we have guidance for youth, we have guidance for multilingual guidance, we have, as you said, phone access, computer access. So how much resources are we in fact putting on those supportive services that people can really, that we can say that we have access a number, let's say 95%?
Yeah, just before that, just wanted to jump in. Maybe this map you said is very individual, and it could be a long way. It's not a short thing. So I think there's also the challenges. How can we make sure these resources or that kind of efforts we put in are connect to individual, this roadmap to where they want to get relevancy, and also like there is enough support and resources along the way that's not cut in between. I think we can like go back to that, but please.
Yeah, I just had a comment about the trust and the trust issue, because a lot of times those of us who are born in the country, especially in the Nordic, and go up there, we learn to trust the government, and we learn not to trust like Meta, Alphabet, and all those. And then you travel around the world, and people do not trust the government, but they do trust Meta and Alphabet and AI. And that's important to keep in mind, especially when it comes to migrants, is that they don't automatically trust everything that comes out. The pandemic, I guess, was a clear show of that.
Yeah, that's a very, very important point, and something that we've been discussing a lot, me, Ruta, and Utishti in particular, is there's an assumption in Finnish services, and it is that if we just do everything right, they will trust us. And when we look at when we look at the interview data and we look at the people we meet and so on, they have a lot of good reasons to not trust the government. And that's really important to remember, that as much as the government services say, trust us, that does not mean anyone will. And we've been discussing that in other words recently in the last few months, which is infrastructures of care, that governments need to figure out ways of communicating, and this goes throughout society, of how we care. Actions through care, that care is something active that we do continuously, right? And much more active than just trusting that they're right. No, trust that they care, that they're trying. Because even if they get something wrong, then, or if I get something wrong, then I'm still trying. And if you trust me to care, that, or like believe that I care, then we're getting somewhere, I think, where the Nordics kind of think they are. Mm-hmm. I think we are.
Yeah, in terms of trust, I was just thinking like maybe there's a lot of talk about integration through employment and work, and there's lots of these obligations attached to this, and there isn't much space to not do things right, and it's really direct cut to the social benefits, for example. Then I was just thinking like in terms of people moving here and then finding their way through to a new country and then finding their path. That could be study, could be work. Yeah, maybe we can think of this like their path, and how can we be making sure help being this mediaries, yeah, and helping supporting individual in the right time to the in the context that are very needed for them as well. So I was just wanted to kind of move more towards what can we do more of kind of what we do now, or how kind of changes do we want to see? Anyone? Yeah.
Maybe I can answer from legal design, maybe design perspective. When for example, public services are designed before the mentioned they are, we are not for them. With them, we need to design. We, for example, we need to think about these services for who these services, who will be used these services. Because in Finland, I saw that I see some services for only ideal users. Who is the ideal users? They speak very well Finnish. They use really nice technology. They know the bureaucracy of Finland, but they don't. If people who is not inside involved this group, how they will use, for example, Migrant. How migrants will use these services? We need to think about this. This is how we can make better. Maybe we can work together who make these services, and with, for example, NGOs who are experienced or directly work with people who use these services. Maybe this can be the first point we can start.
Thank you. I try to be kind with my words as I'm representing the authority here, but this is something that I don't know why it's happening like this, and why still on 26 we have to remind people that, yeah, take all the perspectives on service design. Is it because that there are, especially on public sector, there are limited funds, that then there is a bid or tendering happening, and then the person or the institution that is chosen to be the one that creates the service, it's maybe the bargain price? Or is it that we still don't have knowledge? I'm not going to go into detail, but I had a multi-stakeholder meeting, Finnish authorities, last month, and still there were people with experts. Also, they entitled themselves as multicultural managers of the cities or so forth, and they said that, oh, the diversity issue in service design, or you should just hire person from migrant background so the issue is solved. Yes, it's great you hire people from migrant background, but person from migrant background doesn't mean is a diversity or inclusion expert. You can be maybe from Cuba and you are IT architect. That doesn't mean that you understand the expertise that need to be when we are talking about diversity and inclusion. So I had to stand up there and I had to say that, do we still this year have to talk like this, that these are different expertise? Yes, having diverse teams is great, but having diverse teams doesn't mean that and also I'm like, okay, so the migrant comes to this, let's say to the design team or any other team, so the migrant has to carry the responsibility of taking the whole world into inclusion, and your own expertise is, let's say, plumbing or being a doctor or IT or something. So these are very important and huge topics, and like what Aisha said before, these are the things that unfortunately we still need to talk, even we thought that we wouldn't need to think about this anymore, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, again, I've seen some small improvement in this area, I know, for the past few years, but some of the issues too when it comes to this whole thing is there's two groups mainly that works on the digital things. There are the web designers and there are the people that know their stuff that's going to be put out. Meaning, I know it, so everyone else knows it, so I put it out in my language, which doesn't not necessarily communicate with everyone else. Then you have the web designers. And web designers seem to have some point have been thought that if it's unique, it's good. And if you can recognize that I was the one that made it, it's good. Meaning that you can have, at least you know, you can have 5 different websites representing 5 different national services. And you have, on one website, you can have my site, meaning this is where you log in, being a red button in the top hand corner. On the next website, it's in the middle, it says your site. And the third one can have a smaller button where it says log in the left-hand button. And if you are not digital, just looking for those, you're gonna give up. Because you don't know, is it my site, your site, is it you, is it me, is it, should I log? Yeah, so there you have the web design. So if they can just agree that, okay, login / my site / your site is in that corner, and then you can have like the colors you want, but red and green is usually not a good thing, because if you're not digital and you're not good at reading, then the red is gonna be, yeah, we're not gonna touch the red one, because that's gonna blow everything up. So I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into this. That again, I've seen some changes, and I know there's a project in Norway right now where at least the official websites are coming together to agree on certain points. So the first thing they agreed on was that if something is mandatory to type in, it should have like the red star.
Yes.
Because even that can be 4 different ways of displaying something if you need to, something is mandatory on the website. Yeah. So it's just big things / small things, and we have a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to stop you here, and we are already running out of time. Surprise, surprise. Well, we started from recognizing different like barriers, challenges to accessing or joining or participating in this digitalized society. There was a bit of different layers, not just about digital skills as we've been talking about. And then I feel like we reached more towards like the perspective. That's very important, how we approach to designing, to talking about people. I think that seems to be the main like message we have from this discussion to me. But maybe try to be as brief, everyone. And do you have any like a message you want to leave to the audience about this today's topic now? If you have one, please go ahead.
Well, one message I think which comes also of what you said is that we're not going to solve this, but we're going to continue working with it, and that's the point. The point isn't to solve the design issues, because we're never going to dissolve and come to a final solution to exactly how to fix this, because there's going to be new people are going to age and then have issues with the new things. But I do think that we are getting a little bit better at working with these issues, and just these events and these conversations are part of that. So I think this in itself is the point.
Thank you very much, and let's continue the work together. And thank you for joining for the panel discussion. And I will give the mic back to the host.
Yes, thank you. This panel discussion was I would say a powerhouse in digital inclusion topics, because I could relate to everything that was said. And I think it's really about I kind of think a lot about the idea of a map and the navigation, and what narratives also kind of, who can actually use the map, who believes that they have the confidence to navigate. And yeah, a lot of things. I don't know, how about you, Sylvie?
Yeah, I really appreciated that we had some different perspectives here on the panel and people representing different countries, but we share a lot of the same struggles in our different countries and places of work. So that was really nice to hear.
Yeah, and that like a lot of what we have here in Finland, like we can also hear it's happening everywhere else. So it's also like peer support on a professional level to kind of feel that we're not alone in these challenges. So I'm going to ask you still for the panelists to stay there for some questions. And there's not only questions, there's also statements that Aisha's speech was very strong and beautiful. So, there is questions, we don't have to answer everything, but I would say one of the questions is like how different parties in Espoo City Council help migrants. Do you think like political impact has this? Would the panel discussion want to throw an answer from the Finnish sides? We can go to the
Do you
next.
think this was addressed maybe to the researchers?
Oh,
if
well,
we're talking
maybe
about
true.
Espoo?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We'll skip it. The researchers approved to skip this question. So, all right, so we have some praise to the trust and presentation. The mind is blown. That's fantastic. And also, some of the people, if you're in the location, don't hesitate to also reach out to people and ask questions directly. I'm sure they're welcome to. And a question to Yuri. Is it possible to get materials in Dari, Farsi, Somali, and Arabic? In the near future, will you be able to co-work with important services such as Kela, Migrant, and hyvinvointialue?
That was a lot of questions, and maybe I would take it as a suggestions to work probably with these listed officials to have available materials in multiple languages, at least for the part for the toolbox. At this point, unfortunately, it won't be available in these many languages, but I know the DigiUp, you have like some materials also in, I think, some of the listed language here, and perhaps with the evolution of this AI, the multilingual translation, I do believe it's getting better and better. So using those tools to us, we can probably you can have it translated to them, even though to these languages, even though probably won't be like perfect. But I do suggest that would be the one way to go. And then hopefully we can continue developing like toolbox in the near future to have it available in more languages.
Thank you, Yuri.
If I can just add to what you just said, it's true. We have Dari, Somalian, and Arabic is one of the few. But in order to access those, you need to know Norwegian. So if you want to, if you're from Finland and you want access, or I can send you if you contact Yuri or
send the link to
myself, I can.
We can manage that, and Norwegian to English or is.
Well, I can send it in Arabic, but just I need to know who to send it to.
Right. Then maybe the person who asked this question, just reach out to me if you are here. If you're online, just send me email, then we can send the information directly to you. And if anyone else is also interested in receiving these, just reach out to me.
Yeah, and it's a question of navigation again. So, I think this is to the panel. The question is, as society has become more digital, how do we promote digital skills while still making sure that people who lack those skills are not excluded from essential services? Well, I think it's a question that's been answered like throughout from different angles, but please.
Very essential question also in terms of resources and figures. 40% of EU citizens doesn't have enough skills to operate in the systems in the EU area. So this is not. These are big questions, and when you see those figures, it's like, are the systems for the people or the people for the systems, and then how do we make sure it's then EU, which is very respective body, but then they come with the big budget that then people apply and then we make projects. So could there be something more sustainable that really the person can be given, or the skills, personal skills will be enough that it, of course the support system is important, but to what extent?
Also, I can answer from the law perspective. For example, in EU, including Finland, we have a web accessibility directive, in Finnish saavutettavuusdirektiivi. it requires public sector's digital service to be accessible for everyone. And this directive obliges that public authorities to design websites and mobile applications in a way that people can actually use them. That when we have this legal obligation, but it is first step. After that, we also need to think about how these rules are implemented. If we're sure these rules are implemented, maybe it will be easier that people access to these public services in the digital environment.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Yes, in Norway we have the two things happening right now. One is that the banks, they have like organization, and they come out with a norm saying that they have to provide, every bank has to provide a non-digital access. It doesn't mean it has to be cheap, because it's not. But it's a way of people can still pay by either going to the bank or doing the old ways of doing it, and not like online banking. Yes, and then I totally forgot about the second thing, so just move on.
Yes, do we have any questions from the audience that want to voice a question? All right. Well, it seems like all questions might have been... Oh, please, go ahead, if you can.
Thank you. I know you said about 40% or something, so you briefly went to the question that I have, but do we actually have a number of how many people are actually affected by this per country? So if we're thinking Finland, Norway, do we have from Sweden, anybody experts, but how many people are actually affected by this? Do we have any numbers on this?
In Norway, they're talking about 800,000 people that have low or no digital skills. But there's a new survey coming out. They're doing it right now. So hopefully the results will come out either just before summer or in the fall. The other thing I was going to mention last time was that in Norway there is a way to, instead of getting your post digital, you can get it like by snail mail still in the mailbox. But you have to go on the website and log in and then unhook a button where it says, I don't want it digitally. So yeah, I don't know how helpful that is.
The 40% is an EU average, and it's very, the numbers are very, very different between countries. Maybe we can take a look at the exact numbers after the show.
Oh, and the 600,000 to 800,000 people they mentioned in Norway, it stops at 60. They only add people up until 60, so the last group is 60 plus, which means there could possibly be the exact same. I mean, there could be another 400,000 in that group.
That's true.
Yeah. So, but the new one asks up until 80, so hopefully it's going to be more clear.
Yeah. In Finland, like, the number is quite high of those who can access the service, etc. But a lot of the question is also like, who, like, do they reach with the surveys the people who are out of the digital? That's always a big question for me, that they're then excluded. The method is not always like kind of maybe the best. There's a lot of resonance in the Q&A, and thank you, Petra, for great points about diversity, not just being symbolic alone. And I like this question I want to bring up. Do you think the government has responsibility to encourage companies to be more open to immigrants? And I think it's a very provocative one.
I think it's an important one, but I think it's also about what we, Ruta and Utisha said before, that we have very different governmental ideologies that the cities are representing. Cities represent people, and like Vanda represents, for example, the diversity that it's there present. But then our government, this is not secret, but and also Danish government and Swedish government, Norwegian government, 100 not sure, but are representing different values and political ideologies. But then the cities are the ones that are acting with the people. And then when it comes to the point of trust, it's also affecting that the trust on government is mirroring to the trust on the local authorities. So based on these ideologies that the government is doing, but let's forget that, but in general, in the theoretical, yes.
No.
Yes, should more and not talk. I always say that don't talk only about person being immigrant or migrant, or you have a person with different skill set. And that skill, okay, you have a million skills, but you don't speak fluent Finnish, that doesn't make you unskilled. So
Exactly.
we have to think about people with different skill sets.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
I can add, maybe you can require to the recruitment that they can use the recruitment system as an anonym, because in Finland, everybody knows, I think, there are, because of the Finnish name or immigrant name, they choose the people first when they talk for work meeting before the, what is name, I don't remember now, but I can share shortly my experience also. I speak well Finnish, not really, this is not my mother language, but I can work with this Finnish language. But when you apply to the job, people cannot make together that migrant name and law together. They cannot thinking together. But when you apply from the anonymous recruitment system, they cannot use your name, and they only see your ability or your school or something. Then you meet with them. They know they see what you can do or you're not only about the name. This can be one requirement for them, maybe.
Yeah. Thank you. Anonymous recruitment is a practice that's been more general, and also I think within the city of Helsinki it's been quite well practiced, and it is one way to do that. But I'd love to continue the discussion. There's still a few great questions, but we need to move forward with our program. So, thank you, and yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, and let's give a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, to wrap up the day, some key takeaways. It's a tough one. For me personally, I really, something that stood out for me personally were in the Trust and project, the kind of the obstacles and those four things, they kind of are now in my mind, and I'm just keep on thinking about them and how we can actually use that, and also about the role of the systems, the human data, kind of like the value of encounter always just becomes more and more visible to me throughout the discussion. And yeah, for me, it's really hard to just wrap up for like a couple takeaways. There were so many, but yeah.
Yeah, it's been great having you all here and participating and hearing this. And yeah, as a migrant woman myself, I've really appreciated on a personal level some of the things that have brought up, but also like in my work with immigrants, it's also some very useful stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah, and my sincere hope is that this great work in the DigiUp Toolbox project, that we continue it together. It's a final seminar, but it doesn't mean that this project is like, this is it. It's a continuous, ongoing co-creation that we all collectively create, and we want people to be involved on different levels, from women that go to these trainings, to people and stakeholders, volunteers, everyone who's been empowering this toolbox, and we hope that it's going to go on and live and grow and be implemented. And I'm going to encourage everyone to, if you have any questions to people who are here from the research, from the panel discussion, I'm sure they're happy to answer your questions. Yeah, and big thank you to all the speakers, panelists, all participants here on site, also in Helsinki, Kanava. Thank you very much for being with us today and around this very, very important and also very time-relevant topic. Yeah, thank you very much. Or what?
Next.
Yeah, oh, sorry. This is my bad. But let's not forget that we're all driven, like how we say, like data driven in our activities. Sorry about that. So in the Mentimeter, please do select an option that fits best from 1 to 5, I think. So on the right you have the strongly agree, and then on the left you have the kind of disagree. So let's take a minute, please, to respond to this survey.
And remember to click submit when you've
Yes.
finished putting all the numbers.
And thank you for all the thumbs up that I can see there.
Lovely.
All right. You can please keep on responding, and I'm very happy to see that the event content did meet most of people's expectations. So fantastic job to Yuri and the team, and also to the partners. So, whether the Toolbox project contributes to sustainable and inclusive growth in the Nordic countries, 4.4 out of 5, I think that's very, very solid and very strong. So this also, I think, gives us a sense of power to continue this fantastic work. And whether you plan to use Toolbox in your work or activities in the future, there is a lot in the 5, the full point. So there's 19 people who will use, and then there's people who are a bit more unsure, etc., which is understandable because people come here from different levels of organizations, and yeah. Well, I could then call this event a success on our behalf. So that's fantastic. So yes, thank you so much, and yes, and I think.
Yeah, here you can share anonymously if you have any feedback for us or some comments. Yeah.
Yes, so this will not be shown on the screen, so you can you can safely express your feedback. We can see some already pop up. That's good. So I would like to now do a re-entrance with a big thank you to everyone. Let's give a round of applause to everyone for today. It was fantastic. And thank you again for all the speakers, panelists, for today's. It was a lot of things that we can think about, and I'm sure there's a lot of work to do. And yes, and thank you for the people who also participated online. And on that note, we thank everyone. And
just a practical note then, so everyone here on site is invited to join us for lunch, which is upstairs. You can
on the left, there.
Or that's, no.
On the left, yes.
That's stairs, yes. So you can go up there and continue the conversation while enjoying the lunch, yeah.
Yes. For all the Toolbox partners, please do stay here for pictures. So we're going to take a picture somewhere in this area. And a big thank you to you, Sylvie, for co-hosting with me.
Thank
today.
you, Artem, yes. Thank you.